it's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of a week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards.
That was
thinking! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
Crew has already clinched the National League Central. They're 2 games behind LA, that being the Dodgers, trying to maybe get the 2nd seed in the National League standings for October.
Both of these teams have a chance to score some runs against these pitching matchups, so maybe another over, even though we do have a playoff atmosphere. And yes, Milwaukee did clinch, but there's still an eye on the prize of we might be able to chase down the Dodgers and also the Phillies to get one of those buys.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
Brian Dable has been feeling it. He's in a foul mood. He's having stare downs with Pat Leonard and everything else.
John Mara wants Brian Dable to go and get the next quarterback. They tried to get the next quarterback. We all watched it on Hard Knocks. They couldn't end up with Daniels. They couldn't end up with May. So they said, okay, we'll run it back a year. We'll go get Neighbors, and we'll tolerate.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Hello and welcome to a Thursday live right here on the early line on SportsGrid and all across the SportsGrid network. That includes sportsgrid.com/watch, where you can find your favorite destination and consume everything all across the grid. He is Donnie Rightside. I'm Ben Stevens. We are here together for the next 3 hours up until 11 a.m. Eastern Time. A Thursday that starts off week number 4 of this 2024 National Football League regular season. Yet another divisional duel on a short week Thursday night football game between 2 teams at 1 and 2 from the NFC East. The New York Giants will host the Dallas Cowboys. It is prove-it time for those guys from Dallas. We will break down the game here on this Thursday. We will set the stage for a new week around the NFL. Week 5 of the college football season on the horizon. And boy, after yesterday with all of the financial and NIL conversations off the football field, we need actual football to be back in our lives. For WNBA playoff action and, of course, DRS, the final week of this MLB regular season with some scheduling news, sadly, to bring you to start the show.
Absolutely. We'll get to all those hot topics and more. And Ben, did you know a hurricane is hitting Florida today? A hurricane will hit Virginia Tech tomorrow. 4 days left in the Major League Baseball season. A lot to still be determined. Number 1 seeds on the line. Will the Yankees ever pop their bottles as division champions in the American League East? And also, our football starts tonight. Dallas Cowboys, New York Giants. We are excited.
Yes, we certainly are, DRS. You said 4 more days of the MLB regular season, and technically you were correct as of yesterday afternoon, but now there's going to be 5 because of Hurricane Helene that is hitting the southeastern seaboard of this week. The Braves and the Mets, the final 2 games of what was their second to last series of the season, incredibly important for playoff positioning and those wild card berths, is going to be suspended and postponed until a doubleheader on Monday. The final day of the series was supposed to be today. Of course, the Braves take the opener 5-1 on Tuesday night. But DRS, a doubleheader to end out the year on Monday when everybody else has finished out the Major League Baseball regular season to potentially determine the final spot into the National League postseason.
Yeah, this is terrible for both of those teams because you say, okay, well, they'll play Monday, and if they need it, they'll play both of those games. But think about the ramifications of playing a doubleheader on Monday because typically the wild card teams will be starting on like a Tuesday or a Wednesday. So if you have to play 2 games on that Monday, you're going to blow up your pitching staffs, starters, and also bullpen, and tire out your players at the same time because after that doubleheader, the victory, whoever gets into the wild card, will then be flying out to play another team, Ben, Ben. Like, what, 24 hours later? Unbelievable. I can't believe Major League Baseball did this. Now, granted, you are going to have some natural disasters that cause that type of things. But I think they could have probably thought a little bit ahead and planned a little bit better for this one.
A little bit of foresight, DRS. These things build. Tropical storms elevate based on category as you project things out. This came not out of nowhere. People knew there was going to be some bad weather in the southeastern part of the country later this week. Unfortunate for the Mets and the Braves, especially because of the importance of the final two games of this series, which leads us to the National League wild card chase. The Arizona Diamondbacks needed one yesterday against the Giants just to avoid the sweep against San Francisco and snap a 3-game skid. It's exactly what the Diamondbacks got at home. 8-2 the victory over San Francisco. Zach Gallen, sensational. A single earned run given up, only 2 hits allowed to the Giants, and struck out 11. You turn to your ace in the biggest spots. He delivers in downtown Phoenix.
Absolutely. This was an easy handicap yesterday. You saw that high price, so we recommended a run line there for Arizona, a run line for the first 5 innings. And if you didn't want to lay that 225 price or so on the money line, I told him just take an Arizona Diamondbacks team total to the over. That was a perfect spot for the Diamondbacks after getting beat 11-0, bouncing back with their ace on the mound. They handled their business last night over the San Francisco Giants.
So the Diamondbacks only 1 series remaining, just 3 games left. Currently, Arizona and New York tied for the 2nd and 3rd National League wildcard spots. The Braves, who will go to Kansas City in just a little bit, they are a game behind both of those teams at this moment. Game is at home, or series is at home against the Royals. We'll talk American League wildcard chase in just a moment. National League West, a little bit dicey after San Diego turns a triple play on Tuesday to close out the opener against the LA Dodgers. The Padres had won 8 of 11 entering last night in the 2nd game of their set in downtown LA. But the Dodgers do respond. Shohei Ohtani delivering the game-winning RBI in the home half of the 6th. The Dodgers even the series against San Diego 4-3. The rubber match of the set is tonight. There's a chance with a victory, the Dodgers will clinch the National League West for the 11th time, DRS, in the last 12 seasons.
Love the under in this game, which was listed at 7.5, guns up 4-3. But if you would have told me before the game, Dylan Cease going to go 5 innings, give up 3 earned, and the same thing with Jack Flaherty, 5 innings, 3 earned. There's no way this game should have stayed under the total. Very good bullpen work by the Los Angeles Dodgers, out-dueling that dominant Padres bullpen. Massive win for the Dodgers. Look, they're looking to pop the champagne bottles, but more importantly, stay ahead of the Philadelphia Phillies for the race for the number 1 overall seed.
Yep, the Phillies did get a victory yesterday against the Chicago Cubs. The Yankees looking to pop the bottles, not happening yet. Baltimore blast New York yesterday 9-7. They had an 8-1 lead entering the home half of the 5th before it got interesting in the home half of the 9th. So Baltimore in the top spot in the American League wild card. 4 games up over the Royals and the Tigers, who are 2 games in front of Minnesota, who is a half game in front of Seattle. But all 4 of those teams, DRS, KC, Detroit, Minnesota, and Seattle picking up victories on Wednesday.
It's amazing because these teams are playing their way in, right? You see the Orioles winners of 2 straight games. The Royals now winners of 2 straight games. The Tigers now winners of 4 straight games. These teams want to get into the playoffs and hold off the Twins and the Mariners. But by the way, if the Tigers do get in, does any team want to face Tarek Skubal in game number 1 of a short series? Watch out for those Tigers, baby.
I certainly would not, DRS. WNBA postseason, all 4 of the opening round series come to a close in only 2 games. The Minnesota Lynx, Nafisa Collier, tying a playoff record in the W with 42 points to send Phoenix packing, and more than likely ending the career of Diana Taurasi. The Lynx win 101-88, and the end of a historic rookie campaign for Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever comes to a close in Connecticut. The Sun sweep the Fever 87-81, the victory in Game 2.
Sad times, I guess, for the commissioner of the WNBA that wanted to see those ratings continue into the next round. But we got good basketball games and good basketball teams certainly to still follow. It is sort of interesting, and it worked out a lot where a lot of 2-0 sweeps here. I still don't understand where the better team gets the first 2 games on their home court, but if it goes 1-1, the best of 3 goes back to the lower-seeded team. It's odd, but it didn't work out in that way, and I guess that's why it's structured this way. Most of these teams moved on 2-0.
Yeah, absolutely. Best of 3 series. Now we get into the best of 5. It's the semifinals. The Lynx will host the Sun. Game 1 Sunday. Minnesota 5-point home favorite and WNBA title rematch between the Liberty and the Aces in Brooklyn on Sunday night. Two more unhappy players, one from UNLV, backup running back Michael Allen, not because of NIL opportunities, just playing opportunities, is now transferring and redshirting. Bear Alexander, interior defensive lineman for USC, electing the same cause. Again, not because of NIL, but DRS. It just seems to be the reality of college football. You can play up to 4 games in a season.
Ridiculous.
And still redshirt to maintain a full year of eligibility. Players trying to do that, I guess.
Yeah, here's what we need to do. Let's go back to, let's just say, the 1990s, Ben. You get one snap, you burn your red shirt, and if you want to transfer, you sit out a year. That'll hold these guys in place. Let's get back to the old times. How about that?
DRS, I actually agree with you. I think there are going to be some changes to this rule and this landscape moving forward. We'll have plenty more in that conversation a little bit later on. Jordan Love nearing a return for the Packers ahead of a huge game on Sunday against the Vikings. Dr. Donnie, quickly, will he play?
Guess who's back? Back again, Jordan Love. Oh, yeah, baby. Let's go.
We're feeling the love. More TEL next.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I am ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Don?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Simply put, the only way to bet this is over under win total. I love Tyronn Lue. I think he's one of the 5 best coaches in the league. But my dear friend George Sorless told us to me a long time ago, you can't win if you don't got the talent. Unfortunately, I don't think the Clippers have the talent to match up.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Brian Dable has been feeling it. He's in a foul mood. He's having stare downs with Pat Leonard and everything else.
John Mara wants Brian Dable to go and get the next quarterback. They tried to get the next quarterback. We all watched it on Hard Knocks. They couldn't end up with Daniels. They couldn't end up with May. So they said, okay, we'll run it back a year. We'll go get neighbors, and we'll tolerate.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
An unfortunate situation to end out the Major League Baseball regular season. Today was supposed to be the third and final game of a very vital 3-game set between divisional mates, the Braves and the Mets, that could determine the entirety of the National League wildcard chase, playoff positioning, postseason berths. But instead, DRS, they didn't even play Game 2 yesterday in the A because of Hurricane Helene, which is hitting the southeastern seaboard and is expected to be dangerous. So anybody out there, please, of course, take caution. The series has been delayed and postponed. The Mets and the Braves will play a doubleheader on Monday after the entirety of Major League Baseball has concluded its regular season on Sunday. Donnie, it would be one thing, right, if this did not mean anything, if the Mets had clinched and the Braves were long out of the postseason. But the fact that maybe the most important series of this final week is now PPD'd until a doubleheader on Monday after the rest of the MLB season has come to a close It's just not what you want for either team, for any of the teams in the hunt for October.
And this could have been avoided. And I'm not saying all the way around, because you can't just get out that long-term weather forecast when you play a game on what was it, the first game of the series on Tuesday night, and say, hey, weather's coming later in the week. Maybe it misses, maybe it doesn't. We don't want to rush and really change things up. But these two teams are already in town and played a game. Once you ended that game, let's just say on Tuesday night, and you were trying to say, okay, it looks like we might have a hurricane, here's where the greed of Major League Baseball comes in, and nobody can tell me anything different. If we need to play those games, they're going to play. And if they don't, they probably have some sort of insurances that they buy before the season starts in case a game or two gets wiped out. It's honestly, that's what they do. But tell me this. Why weren't we looking yesterday and say, okay, we can't play two games. You know, we'll send a message to the fans. If you use your tickets tomorrow, absolutely fantastic. If you can't make it because we're going to play this game at 11 a.m. or noon tomorrow, don't worry about it. We'll refund that money. We're just trying to avoid the storm that's going to start to hit later today. I know we're probably going to have to blow up game number 3 of this series, but we might not need the final game, but we might need one of those final 2 games. So we're going to move this game up to a noon start or earlier just to get the game in, regardless if fans are there. You just have to sacrifice sometimes. But it looks like they just completely whiffed on that and said, oh, if we need a doubleheader to start the playoffs, which is going to ruin both of those baseball teams, that's in the best interest of baseball. I must be missing something here, Ben, on this.
Yeah, DRS, it is just so unfortunate based on the scheduling, based on logistics, the postseason, the first games in the wild card round expected to begin on Tuesday. I do not think MLB is going to play, but normally they start all 4 wild card series in the same day, don't they?
Right away.
So then would the Mets
right
and
away.
the Braves have to play the very next day? Again, it's just unfortunate. They don't get that day off. Okay, they get a couple of days off right now, but not how you originally had it scheduled. Both skippers have to now look at their starting staffs and figure things out because this upcoming series that they now have to play ahead of the doubleheader that is postponed until Monday, incredibly vital. The Mets stay on the road. They go to Milwaukee. The Brew Crew pretty set where they are. They've clinched a divisional crown. They're not going to catch Philadelphia and L.A. How much do the Brewers need to expend in that final series of the regular season? However, Atlanta remains at home where they will host the Kansas City Royals. And, of course, KC is holding on to its turf to try to claim a playoff berth in the American League wild card standings. It's unfortunate, right? Could it have been avoided? We'll never know. We don't know the discussions behind the scenes and in the league office, but it feels like a little bit of foresight to kind of move the gears of scheduling could have been beneficial here. Atlanta did win game number 1 on Tuesday, 5-1. So here's how the rest of the National League wild card sits at this moment. Last night, DRS in Phoenix, Arizona desperately needed a win at home. They were greater than a $2 favorite with their ace, Zach Gallen, on the bump. The D-backs were looking to end a 3-game skid and avoid a sweep against the Giants, who are out of postseason consideration. It's what they got, an 8-2 victory in the final game of the series. And Gallen, as we said earlier, 11 strikeouts, only a single earned run given up. It is exactly what the Diamondbacks needed. It's what they got last night.
Absolutely. And once you get past Logan Webb and like the Blake Snells in the top of that rotation, you sort of see that soft underbelly there with Mason Black. You knew he was going to get lit up. 2 2/3 innings pitched, 5 hits, 4 earned runs. This game was over by the 5th inning. It was 5-1 Arizona as they cruised in this game. This is what you're supposed to do. Ace on the mound. You're at home. You're in playoff contention. The other team is not. Pound that team. 6-run win. You'll take it.
It's exactly what they needed. So here's where the wild card standings are right now with the postponement in the Mets and the Braves series. With the victory, Arizona and New York are tied for the 2nd and 3rd spots in the wild card chase. Differing records, of course, different amount of games played. The Braves a full game back of both the D-backs and the Mets at this moment. Those two teams, New York and Arizona, looking up at San Diego, who occupies the top spot by 3 games, but not any more than that. And the Dodgers' lead in the National League West is back to 3 as well. The Dodgers winning yesterday in Game 2 against San Diego, 4-3. Shohei Ohtani, a couple of RBIs, and the game-winning ribby in the home half of the 6th. L.A. evens the series against the Padres. The Dodgers have a chance now to clinch the National League West with one more victory in the rubber match today against San Diego. That would be the 11th divisional crown in the NL West for the Dodgers in the last 12 MLB years.
Yeah, the Dodgers are going to win the NL West because when you look out on the horizon, we just talk about teams like the Atlanta Braves, like, hey, now you might be really getting a fight over those final 3 games from Kansas City. Not getting any fight going to Colorado against a dead Rockies team. They'll pick up a victory there. But the interesting part is the Philadelphia Phillies do hold the tiebreaker over the Los Angeles Dodgers. So if those two teams end the season in a tie, which technically right now a half game up the Dodgers because they're going to play today where the Phillies aren't. If they win this game, it turns into a full game, which gives them a little bit of breathing room. They lose this game, then you have a final 3-game set where the Phillies would be heavily favored in their series. Same thing with the Los Angeles Dodgers. But if both of those teams tie at the end of the season, the Phillies get the 1 seed, the Dodgers get the 2. If the Dodgers hold them off, obviously, they'll get that 1 seed and the Phillies the 2 seed. So a lot to play for here at the top of the standings. And also, I always talk about this, Ben, being locked into playoff mode. You're basically having the Dodgers and the Phillies to play the final 3 games for the meaningness of that 1 seed. And I think it helps both ball clubs because they'll be off. The Phillies don't play till October 5th once the season ends. I like the fact they might have to play all the way through the weekend, Ben.
Yeah, the Phils go to Washington and take on the Nats. The Dodgers, as DRS said, headed to Coors Field, LA minus 185 to take the number 1 seed in the National League. More around MLB next.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in the set than I do for this year. Brady, I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Donnie?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Simply put, the only way to bet this is over-under win total. I love Tyronn Lue. I think he's one of the 5 best coaches in the league. But my dear friend George Sorlis told us to me a long time ago, you can't win if you don't got the talent. Unfortunately, I don't think the Clippers have the talent to match up.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Brian Dable has been feeling it. He's in a foul mood. He's having stare downs with Pat Leonard and everything else.
John Mara wants Brian Dable to go and get the next quarterback. They tried to get the next quarterback. We all watched it on Hard Knocks. They couldn't end up with Daniels. They couldn't end up with May. So they said, okay, we'll run it back a year. We'll go get neighbors, and we'll tolerate.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Will the Yankees ever win the American League East? The question is still outstanding. Yesterday, New York did make it interesting late. DRS in the home half of the 9th. Juan Soto, an RBI. Aaron Judge's 57th home run of the year. A 3-run shot that cut it to only a 2-run deficit. But from there, the Yanks, with only 1 out in the 9th, get 2 more outs recorded, and the game comes to a close. Baltimore wins the second of this set up in the Bronx to keep the Yankees from clinching and popping the champagne as an AL East champion. 9-7, the victory yesterday for the O's. DRS, after seeing Baltimore win game number 1, 5-3 as a road underdog and a road dog once again, I was like, you know what, that's it. The Yankees know they need this game. The O's pretty set. They're not going to catch them in the American League East more than likely, and they've got a 4-game cushion atop the American League wild card standings. This is the time for New York. What a terrible money line ticket that was.
Yeah, actually, BSS, if you had the day off yesterday and you would have watched Moneyline, you would have said, oh, look at that. DRS says the better pitcher is on the Baltimore Orioles side yesterday. They should be able to pick up that victory. And let's go back to, it was supposed to be, before the game started, Nestor Cortez gets that MRI. Then they throw Stroman out there, who's a veteran pitcher, and he gives you 3 1/3 innings, 10 hits, 6 earned runs. You got to be kidding me, man. Like, at least try to hold down the fort. But having said that, tonight is the night you need to back the New York Yankees. We'll talk about that later in the show. You got your ace on the mound here, Garrett Cole, going up against Corbin Burns. They will pop the champagne bottles tonight. But last night, just a lot of turbulence there, and that starting pitching staff didn't help. And you see plating 9 runs, the Baltimore Orioles.
The Yanks minus 142, home money line favorite in the matchup of the Aces on this Thursday evening in New York. Brian Hoke, who covers the Yankees for Major League Baseball, with this report yesterday. Nestor Cortez said that he hopes rest and rehab will allow him to return this season if the Yankees have a deep playoff run. For now, he's shut down for 7 to 10 days and will have a PRP injection, getting 2 opinions on his left elbow. Never a good sign, DRS, for that pitching rotation as you get ready to be in October. The Yankees are going to, more than likely, win the American League East, and more than likely will have that number 1 seed in the AL, and more than likely are going to at least have the opening round bye, so there should be some rest for Cortez, but it has not been a ceremonious start to this week inside Yankee Stadium.
No, certainly not. And also, from Nestor Cortez's perspective, how many times has this worked out? By the way, you're not going to pitch tomorrow. You got to get an MRI because your elbow hurts. Then you're going to get an injection. Then you're not going to pitch or throw a baseball for 7 to 10 days. Then I'm going to put you in a high-leverage situation in the playoffs. Stop the madness. Nestor Cortez should not be pitching the rest of this Major League Baseball season and or in the playoffs. And also, it's not that big of a loss here for the Yankees. We didn't factor he was even going to get a start, but maybe be an arm bullpen if you needed to put him in as a pinch as a left-handed pitcher. That might help. But at this point, he's not going to help at all. I doubt he pitches again here in 2024.
And just something to pay attention to, of course, as we still have that battle for home field advantage throughout October in the MLB postseason. The Yankees are clinging on to a half-game advantage over the Guardians. The Yanks will end with a 3-game set at home in their final series, as I'm drawing a blank on the team that I just saw that they will end against. Can we get some help from our resident Yankees fans downstairs? No, I'll do it myself. All good. Against the Pittsburgh Pirates, DRS. That's who they are going to host in their final set. The Guardians will play the Astros. On paper, you would think Cleveland has a more difficult series, but Houston has already clinched, of course, the American League West. There are no odds out, Donnie, for that number 1 seed in the American League, which I find interesting is there's only a half-game difference between New York and Cleveland at this moment.
Yeah, sometimes it is hard to book those. Who needs what? Who's going to be clinching that division early? Who's going to be setting those pitching rotations up for the weekend? So maybe a lot to be desired at that point. It'd be crazy because we just factored in that the Yankees were going to be that top overall seed and be able to win the pennant, and the championship in effect goes through the Bronx. It could be amazing. Can you imagine Cleveland, the number 1 overall seed in the American League, and not really getting a lot of respect? That'd be pretty crazy.
The Guardians beating the Reds yesterday 5-2. Baltimore with the victory, still just 10-11 in the month of September, below 500 since the All-Star break, but in those playoff atmospheres on the road, playing better baseball as of this moment. DRS will get to the American League wild card chase in just a minute, but here are the AL standings. Again, the Yankees still awaiting a clinching victory for the American League East, but they are still in the top spot as of this moment. Guardians have clinched the American League Central. The Astros have clinched the American League West. And then we'll get to the wild card component on that right side, on the other side of the break, with Mr. Right Side. Next on the early line here on SportsGrid.
right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. In motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in the set than I do for this year. Brady, I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Donnie?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Simply put, the only way to bet this is over under win total. I love Tyronn Lue. I think he's one of the 5 best coaches in the league. But my dear friend George Sorlis told us to me a long time ago, you can't win if you don't got the talent. Unfortunately, I don't think the Clippers have the talent to match up.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Brian Dable has been feeling it. He's in a foul mood. He's having stare downs with Pat Leonard and everything else.
John Mara wants Brian Dable to go and get the next quarterback. They tried to get the next quarterback. We all watched it on Hard Knocks. They couldn't end up with Daniels. They couldn't end up with May. So they said, okay, we'll run it back a year. We'll go get Neighbors, and we'll tolerate.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
The American League wild card chase. 4 teams separated by only 2.5 games in the final 4 days of this MLB regular season. It's a lot of ground to make up, but crazier things have happened. For a wild DRS, it seemed as though Kansas City would not even sweat out this final week or maybe the final 2 or 3 weeks of this MLB regular season, but enter a 7-game skid before this final week in a road trip to the nation's capital against Washington. But they have won both games, blanking the Nats in both. An extra innings walk-off, or not really because they were the away team on Tuesday night, but taking advantage of a throwing error to snap that 7-game skid. And then yesterday, the Nats only registered 2 hits. The Royals get across a couple. Michael Massey delivering the first run for Kansas City in the game. The Royals win 3-0 against the Nats.
Yeah, say, look, sometimes it just lines up where that schedule is. You got to beat the teams in front of you, and sometimes you're going to get a team that's already looking to play golf within the next week here and take advantage of those opportunities, and they did that. Now, also, as we talk about them playing the Washington Nationals, who's on deck? A team that absolutely needs to win, and is going to throw a couple of hammer pitchers at you in the Atlanta Braves. So things are not, on the up and up per se for the Royals. Love the fact that they won those 2 games. Love the fact that currently right now, if the season ended, that they would be in the playoffs, but they're going to get a hell of a run here over the weekend from the Atlanta Braves. And if you're looking from their perspective, just win 1. If you told Kansas City at the end of the year, you're going to have a 3-game set in Atlanta, I got to win 1 game, they would take that every single time. They should be able to pick up a win there. And also, even if they don't, other teams can falter behind them, take losses, and they get in, but you rather win your way in, right? And Kansas City's trying to do that now.
KC was a greater than $1.50 favorite on the road in the nation's capital. Total of 8 stays well under. They have scored 4 runs since snapping that 27-inning scoreless streak, as it was Kyle Isbell scoring the game-winning run on Tuesday, 3 yesterday against Washington. And it wasn't like DRS, as we'll talk about the Twins in just a bit. The Royals have been sliding the entirety of the second half or all of September. They had won 7 of 9 prior to the 7-game skid. But if you lose 7 games in the final 2.5 weeks of the MLB regular season, things can get a little precarious. So 2 victories against the Nats. Now let's get to the hottest team in the American League wildcard chase. The Tigers keep winning baseball. Yesterday at home in the Motor City, 7-1 over the Rays. They were only a minus 122 money line favorite. Total of 8.5 stays barely under. Tarek Skubal was great in game 1. The bats delivering yesterday. Parker Meadows got things started with a home run in the home half of the first. Spencer Torkelson, a couple of RBIs and a 2-run shot later in the game to extend the lead for Detroit and add some insurance. DRS, the Tigers have won 4 straight 7 of their last 8. They are 22-9 since August 22nd when they sat 4 games below 500, 62-66. The Tigers are the hottest team in the bigs entering the postseason.
Playing great baseball, too. And yesterday, I thought the angle was correct where the Detroit Tigers had a good chance to win, and they did win 7-1. But I like the team total over for the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, only got 1 run, but here's how you know Detroit is already in playoff mode. And sometimes it's very hard to cap in playoffs because the kitchen sink gets thrown at you. And meaning, Cotter Montero's not a great pitcher. He goes 2 2/3 innings, 4 hits, gives up 1 earned run with 2 walks. The minute he started to struggle, Ben, they didn't go, well, we got to get you through 5 or 6 innings to save the bullpen for the rest of the year. He gets yanked immediately, and the bullpen comes in and shuts it down the rest of the way. They leave Montero in. Maybe it is 3 or 4 runs scored over the first 5 to 6 innings for the Tampa Bay Rays. But I love the fact that Detroit is like, you know what? There is no tomorrow unless we keep winning baseball games, and we'll pull those pitchers early, just like you'll see in the early rounds of the Major League Baseball playoffs. Love what I see out of Detroit. They are locked and loaded right now, headed towards the playoffs.
And they called up the youngster DRS, Jackson Jobe, who did pitch the 9th inning yesterday. 9 pitches, 7 strikes, 1 hit, got all 3 outs that he needed. Again, they are grooving in that playoff mentality. As we have said, all 4 teams in the AL wildcard chase recorded a victory yesterday. That includes the Twins. And oh boy, did Minnesota need it. Nearly a $2 favorite at home against Miami after the Marlins won Game 1 4-1. Yesterday, the Twins respond. Byron Buxton, a deep shot. Good to see him get involved in the offense. 8-3, the victory for the Twins at home in Minneapolis.
When you're a bad baseball team, you give baseball games away. The reason I talk about the Marlins here, they had a 3-0 lead. But if you look at the box score, Ben, 4 errors by the Marlins. You give teams extra outs, they're going to put you away. Because yesterday on the show, I said, you know what? If there is a deep dive on a team you want to take a shot at like a plus 165 price, it would be the Marlins. And I felt like the king of the hill starting this game in the top of the first inning. A 3-0 lead for the Marlins, fresh off the Marlins the day before beating the Twins. But that's a good win for the Twins. They're still angling for the playoffs. You could have very easily folded up shop again after giving up a couple runs early. They didn't do that. But come on, Marlins. He just given the baseball game away. I almost had one of those games where, hey, man, what a great pick turned into, that's what the Twins are supposed to do, beat a really bad baseball team, which now has 100 losses on the season.
Miami does have 100 losses. Jake Berger has been a bright spot. It was his 3-run shot, his 29th home run of the year that got things started for the Fish yesterday. How tight were the you-know-whats of the Twins after they saw that? So Minnesota, who entered yesterday, losing 5 of their last 6, a desperately needed win. Since September 5th, they are now 6-12. They were 15 games above 500, Donnie, on August 24th. These are the ebbs and flows of an MLB season. A long 162, a long final month. They were 72-15, 57, 15 games above 500, 10-19 since that point. And because of it, 2 games behind both their divisional foes in Kansas City and Detroit. Everybody in the American League wild card race getting a win yesterday, including the O's and the Mariners. Now, Houston has already clinched the American League West, as we know. So Seattle was greater than $1.50 favorite on the road yesterday in H-Town. The M's pick up a big 8-1 victory. Yusei Kikuchi, actually pretty good. 2 runs scored against him, none of them earned. And then the Mariners plated 6 of the 8 runs they scored after Kikuchi left the game. Donnie, as we look at those American League wildcard standings, are we going to see any upheaval in the final 4 days of this season?
You'd like to say yes, because you like to see, down the stretch, some of those Sunday games that are going to be ultra important. But it's hard for the Minnesota Twins to jump a team down 2 games, knowing they have to sweep this weekend, and those 2 teams have to lose this weekend, all 3 of those games. Yeah. I don't think that's going to happen. So it should be the Orioles, the Royals, and the Tigers getting in. And I'm not mad at that. We cheer on teams like the Royals. It's interesting that the Tigers are getting in. Twins, Mariners, you just didn't play well through a 162-game schedule. That fault is only on you. I don't think we get that upheaval, but I would love to see a Sunday coming in with multiple games up in the air of who makes the playoffs.
The Tigers are now minus 5,000 to make the American League postseason. Last Tuesday, I bet Detroit's number at plus 140. 48 hours prior to that, I think Joe Frizo, our producer extraordinaire who tracks all of these odds, told me it was plus 500, plus 750, at least within the last 2 weeks. And Detroit has just been that good here down the home stretch. So minus 5,000 for the Tigers. KC doesn't even have a price listed. Minnesota at plus 330. Seattle at 35-1. By the way, in the National League playoff picture, the Mets minus 305. The Diamondbacks minus 295. The Braves minus 165. Some interesting odds distinctions there.
Yeah, it is, especially since the Braves are taking on Kansas City. So those two teams absolutely have to win, where the majority of the teams jockeying for a playoff position don't really need the other team to do anything. Case in point last night with the Twins. Yeah, you're supposed to beat the Marlins who have 4 errors because all they do is say, man, I just can't wait to get back to Miami and actually have an off season and relax at this point. We'll see how it plays out, but baseball in the final week is fun. You know, baseball is even better, Ben, next week when the playoffs start.
You know what's really interesting, DRS? The Diamondbacks end their day off today at home against San Diego. If the Dodgers do clinch today, all right, the Padres are pretty comfortable in that top spot. But if they don't, then that becomes a battle for the D-backs to end out this season. More on the early line next.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in the set than I do for this year. Brady, I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Donnie?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Simply put, the only way to bet this is over-under win total. I love Tyronn Lue. I think he's one of the 5 best coaches in the league. But my dear friend George Sorless told us to me a long time ago, you can't win if you don't got the talent. Unfortunately, I don't think the Clippers have the talent to match up.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Brian Dable has been feeling it. He's in a foul mood. He's having stare downs with Pat Leonard and everything else.
John Mara wants Brian Dable to go and get the next quarterback. They tried to get the next quarterback. We all watched it on Hard Knocks. They couldn't end up with Daniels. They couldn't end up with May. So they said, okay, we'll run it back a year. We'll go get Neighbors, and we'll tolerate.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
What a wild day it was yesterday in college football, exposing all the pitfalls of this new era where name, image, and likeness in the transfer portal are all here. Listen, I am all for player agency, but we need to put systems in place to make it not the Wild West, to make it not even resemble free agency in professional sports leagues. Because, Donnie, those operate with contracts and legal agreements that have consequences to violating or unfulfilling the terms of those sheets. Now, I wasn't here yesterday, right? I had the day off, but when I woke up and saw the news about Matthew Sluka, UNLV's quarterback, transferring after only 3 games, as the Red and Rebs are in prime position to contend for a conference crown in the Mountain West, to maybe earn one of the automatic bids to a college football playoff, one of those G5 spots if they are available. I was stunned. And then we learned more and more information as the day went through. Listen, my overall take is this, DRS. This is not UNLV's fault. This is not the UNLV collective's fault. It's a little bit on the agent that represents Matthew Sluka. But at the end of the day, it is the ecosystem of which we operate. And that is the issue. Zero restrictions were put into place or guidelines for how this should operate. There are no standardized contracts. There is no transparency and honesty when it comes to meeting the terms of these agreements that poof, vanish into thin air when it is convenient. There are fingers to be pointed, Donnie, but nobody is ever going to admit fault or take blame. Go ahead.
No, and here's what we're looking at, too, because I understand where you can get on both sides and make a pretty good argument at this point. But it really comes down to this. You're a quarterback that's looking for an institution. You had a pretty good run at Holy Cross. A Division I team comes calling, and maybe there's 2 or 3 teams that would like to have you. Are you telling me that you had a meeting probably at like a Whataburger and you just sat on the side and said, you know what, I probably can get you $100,000. Oh, great. Signed, sealed, delivered. I'll be there. Pay me my $100,000 with nothing written in stone. And you have representation. You know what this sounds like Matthew Sluka should have done today? Should have filed a lawsuit against his agent for lying to him say, you know what, I'm going to play with this institution with my guys. I'll get that $100,000 later here. But you know what also you can buy into, because I love to go down the rabbit hole. Who's to say his representation didn't come to him and say, look, that important game is coming up. We can preserve this here. You've shown that you can play football at the Division I level. If you sit this out, I guarantee you in the offseason, I can get you more money. And you can make up a story saying, oh, just hearsay. This assistant coach on a phone call said, I'm going to get $100,000. When UNLV basically was telling us, like, no, we gave him $3,000 to move. And when we heard this, we figured we probably could get him like $3,000 a month, which would turn out to be like $15,000 for the season. That's big time, from $15,000 to $100,000. But also, of course, it's time for the institutions to sort of enact guardrails as well, Ben. Correct me if I'm wrong. You sign up for an athletic scholarship, which is year-to-year renewable. So, okay, you do that with the school and you're Matthew Sluka. The school has the right to release you, or they could just burn that scholarship and say, just like in the NFL, you don't want to play for me? Okay, you're not playing for anybody else unless we let you out of this. So guardrails start that to get put in. But this is such a bad sign, and we can go down a long list of what could happen in the future. But let's put it this way. You worked hard with these players. You are 3-0. The biggest games of your season are coming up now, and you dipped out on your team. I don't care if it was about money or not. That's your representation's problem. I can only put myself in the same shoes and say, these are my guys. I'm leaving them high and dry because I'm going to pull back because I had a promise that wasn't signed. That's my fault here. I should own up and ride this thing out. But, hey, maybe he ends up at Boise State next year, and I hope if he does, Boise State goes, we'll get you $200,000, then stiffs him again. How about that?
And that's the dark underbelly of the NIL era. Marcus Cromartie of Equity Sports, Matthew Sluka's representation. We now have these actors that are operating as an agency to be representatives of a new system that clearly they know nothing about. Cromartie wasn't even legalized in the state of Nevada. Even if he agreed to an agreement and had a contract, it would not have been upheld in courts or legal transactions. That's what's so bad about this. And Cromartie can claim a verbal agreement with insert ex-assistant coach on UNLV staff. Great. The UNLV staff is not the NIL collective. Yes, they work hand in hand, but technically it is still illegal for the UNLV staff to guarantee payment for play. That is not name, image, and likeness. So Matthew Sluka's representation did him dirty. But Donnie, if you are now a future landing spot of Sluka or Michael Allen or Bear Alexander, as we saw some of these gears start to turn, are you really going to be fully invested into paying these guys a large lump sum when they look at their own personal interest? And Sluka has every right. if Donnie and I were told by SportsGrid tomorrow, hey, we're not going to pay you any further, then we would not want to get out there. But SportsGrid is our employer. UNLV is not the employer. The athletic department is not the employer of Matthew Sluka. It exposed all that is wrong in the NIL era yesterday, but it is this new evolution and landscape of college football where we see guys like Sluka say, hey, I don't want to burn my year of eligibility. I'll hold on to it, hoping that somebody else takes a chance on me. I'm just not so sure there's going to be that large, robust people batting down the door to try to get Sluka's playing talents next year.
Yes, correct. And you're right about this. And it's a simple change. Like back in 20 years ago, you played one football game, you burned your red shirt. That will make people think twice about, hey, I better get those promises done before game number one or we have to sit out. And also the year transfer. We always say it's really unfair, but it was put in place because, again, these are teenage kids for the most part here. Yes, recruiting is a dirty game. How many times has a kid said, I'm a four-star quarterback. I would love to go to Alabama. And the kid goes to Alabama and Saban looks at him one day and goes, haha, we got you here. Kid, you're not a quarterback. I know we told you that. I think you can help out as safety here. Why don't you go work out with the defense? That's where we want to be. Kids get lied to all the time. So you do have to have a sort of a stance of, okay, if my coach is going to get fired, yes, you can be released of your scholarship. But also, you got to have some guardrails. And forget about the NCAA. Put things in contract. They can hold up. Same thing with Sluka. If you had an actual deal in writing that was legalized, you'd still be playing. You would charge whatever, Equity Sports is the $100,000 and keep moving forward at this point. That's the issue.
A few closing thoughts on this matter before we get you ready for Thursday Night Football. Next.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. Brady, I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Don?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take the room.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Simply put, the only way to bet this is over-under win total. I love Tyronn Lue. I think he's one of the 5 best coaches in the league. But my dear friend George Sorless told us to me a long time ago, you can't win if you don't got the talent. Unfortunately, I don't think the Clippers have the talent to match up.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Brian Dable has been feeling it. He's in a foul mood. He's having stare downs with Pat Leonard and everything else.
John Mara wants Brian Dable to go and get the next quarterback. They tried to get the next quarterback. We all watched it on Hard Knocks. They couldn't end up with Daniels. They couldn't end up with May. So they said, okay, we'll run it back a year. We'll go get Neighbors, and we'll tolerate.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
So just to tidy up what was a crazy day in college football, as we get ready for week number 5, this is not May. First off, one of the legislation that I want to put into college football, DRS, is that transfer portal or conference realignment news must happen between the months of May and August 15th. After that, it's all about college football. But as we tidy up this situation, you are also going to see Michael Allen, UNLV's backup running back, and Bear Alexander, who is a notable name for USC, but the tape don't lie, brother, that they also took advantage of the redshirt rules in college football, not burning their year of eligibility if they redshirt before they play in 5 games. That's why week 5, this is all happening around CFB. It was not because of NIL deals that fell by the wayside. It's because of playing time. And again, I think these redshirt rules are going to be looked at. Don't listen to people when they say, oh, what NIL deals are falling through at Southern Cal. Maybe Lincoln Riley's not good for it. Or, UNLV can't pay anybody. Those are 2 very, very different things. Matthew Sluka's situation and the other guys that maybe made the headlines yesterday.
I'm telling you also, and it's funny how the money sort of gets distorted as well because they're also mercenaries at this point. I know you can't equate to 15, 20 years ago, but I can imagine like a college football player playing for the Miami Hurricanes in 1992, like, hey, man, we can legally get you $3,000 a month in cash. They would be over the moon when $20 you could stretch for like 2 months in college back in the day. But I know it's a different day and age at this point. But yes, I think the biggest culprit, though, Ben, is the transfer rule. I can go wherever I want. You can't restrict me at any time I want. But the 3.5 game rule, 4 game rule for the red shirt, that's ridiculous. If you just restrict the transfer portal and also you make a red shirt get burned the minute you get into a football game, it will be so much more clean at this time out there on the landscape.
So, DS, it's a great point, right? The transfer portal rule and the one-time transfer without penalty came to be because college athletes argued, hey, my fellow student can go wherever he wants as many times as he wants to get his degree. You have claimed we are student athletes. But the allure of amateurism is off. These people are getting paid. Thus, contracts have different institutions in fulfillments that you must get to. And starting next year, we get into revenue sharing, a whole other can of worms. Oh, by the way, the irony of this all, last night, late night, we got news that Air Force and UNLV plan to stay in the Mountain West because of a larger lump sum and a signing bonus up front. See, raises are not always all that bad of a thing. All right, let's talk actual football, shall we? We love the sport. Let's get to it. Let's go to the National Football League in the start of week number 4 of this 2024 NFL regular season. A very impactful game on this Thursday night. The Dallas Cowboys on the road in MetLife, a divisional duel between 2 teams that both sit at 1-2 following 2 weeks. The Cowboys DRS now a 5.5-point favorite. Total is 45.5. This line was 4.5 earlier in the week. I think the market reflecting what the sports bettor is feeling. If Dallas is going to be worth anything this year, double-digit wins in the regular season, contending for a divisional crown, maybe doing something that has eluded them and reaching an NFC title game, this is a game to prove their stuff tonight in MetLife.
It is. And also, sometimes it gets down to the common denominator, the simplest form, Ben. Who has the better quarterback in this game? It's clear the Dallas Cowboys with Dak Prescott have the better quarterback. The Dallas football team should be able to move the rock against the Giants tonight from an offense to defensive perspective. Now, whatever you get out of Daniel Jones could be a positive. If he throws a touchdown pass or 2, that's great. We understand Malik Neighbors is a wonderful talent, but just man-for-man talent-wise, Dallas is the better team. But I did like what I saw out of the last 2 weeks from the Giants. Even though the Giants did lose to the Commanders, that wasn't the team's fault. That was upper management's fault and the coach's fault for not bringing a kicker. Otherwise, you'd be 2-1 heading into this game. And say what you would about Cleveland. We don't think they're a very good team, but still the Giants going on the road to Cleveland and picking up a victory here. I liked what I saw. I love what I said of Malik Neighbors. He's a target machine. He should be getting the football a lot tonight. But the way I think it plays out is Dallas was embarrassed for the past 2 weeks with their performances at home. And also, I love how you use the media. CeeDee Lamb sticks out in front and says, you know what? This is on me. No excuses. I got my money. I got to perform better. Dak Prescott after the game last week. We were unprofessional on offense. That can't happen again. So it looks like the word is getting home to Dallas where their season is on the line. As you said, they need a victory tonight. They should be able to get it. And the same theory goes, if they're going to win the football game and it's under a touchdown on the number, then you should be betting the Dallas Cowboys accordingly.
The 19th game consecutively, the G-Men have been booked as an underdog. The last time they were favored in week 2 last year against Arizona. We will have plenty more of a breakdown when hour 2 on the early line starts next.